Consul Vexthera stood before the massive viewing screen in the Galactic Concilium Council chambers. His scales shimmered with pride as the appointment ceremony concluded. He was now the sector ambassador for the outer regions, a position he had worked 3 decades to achieve. The elder council members watched him with expressions he could not quite read. There was something in their eyes that seemed almost like pity. "Congratulations, Consul," Elder Cthes said, his ancient voice crackling through the translation device. "You have earned this position through merit and dedication. However, there is one matter we must discuss before you depart for your new post." Vexthera straightened his posture. "I am ready for any challenge, Elder." Cthes gestured with one of his 4 arms and the viewing screen changed. A star map appeared, showing the outer sectors of Concilium space. One area glowed in deep red, marked with warning symbols that Vexthera had never seen used before. "This is Terran space," Cthes continued. "It is forbidden territory. You must never enter this zone under any circumstances." Vexthera studied the map with growing confusion. The restricted area was enormous, containing hundreds of star systems. "Forgive me, Elder, but I do not understand. What species controls this territory? Are they hostile?" Another council member, a floating crystalline named Jevora, spoke up. Her voice chimed like broken glass. "They call themselves humans. They are a bipedal species from a world they name Earth. 200 years ago we made contact with them. It did not go well." "Not well?" Vexthera asked. "Were they aggressive? Did they attack us?" The elders exchanged glances. Cthes leaned forward in his seat. "The details are classified at the highest level. What you need to know is this: humans are to be left completely alone. We have a treaty with them. They stay in their space and we stay in ours. No trade, no diplomacy, no contact of any kind." Vexthera felt his curiosity growing stronger. In all his years of diplomatic training, he had never heard of such an arrangement. The Concilium was the largest governing body in the known galaxy. They had treaties with thousands of species. Some were friendly, some were cautious, but none were completely isolated like this. "But surely after 200 years, we could attempt new negotiations?" Vexthera suggested. "Perhaps the original problems have been resolved. Times change and so do civilizations." Cthes' expression darkened. "No. The treaty is absolute. I was there, young Consul. I witnessed what happened during first contact. I saw what the humans are capable of when provoked. The isolation was not our idea, it was theirs. They chose to separate themselves from us, and we were grateful they offered peace instead of the alternative." "The alternative?" Vexthera pressed. "That information is restricted," Jevora chimed. "Access to the full first contact records requires unanimous council approval, and we have never granted such approval. What happened is too dangerous to be widely known." Vexthera looked back at the map. The red zone seemed to pulse on the screen like a beating heart. "What should I do if there is an emergency? What if one of our ships accidentally crosses into their territory?" Cthes stood slowly, his old bones creaking. He approached Vexthera and placed a hand on the younger diplomat's shoulder. "Then you pray to whatever gods you believe in that the humans are feeling merciful. You do not send rescue missions. You do not attempt contact. You report it to this council immediately, and we handle it through very specific, very careful channels that took us decades to establish." "But—" "No exceptions, Consul," Cthes interrupted firmly. "I have seen ships disappear into that zone. I have seen proud warriors reduced to trembling hatchlings after encounters with human vessels. The warning is not given lightly. Stay away from Terran space. Your life, and perhaps the lives of millions of Concilium citizens, may depend on your obedience to this single rule." Vexthera nodded slowly, but his mind was already racing with questions. What could make the entire Galactic Concilium fear one species so completely? What had happened 200 years ago? As he left the council chambers, he could not shake the feeling that he would eventually learn the answers, whether he wanted to or not. 3 months had passed since Vexthera took command of his sector. He had performed his duties perfectly, managing trade disputes and diplomatic meetings with practiced ease. But every night he found himself staring at the maps of Terran space, wondering what secrets lay behind that forbidden border. His chance to find out came on an ordinary patrol day. His fleet was conducting routine surveys near the edge of the exclusion zone when the communications officer suddenly stood up from his station. "Consul, we are receiving a distress signal," the officer reported, his voice tense. Vexthera moved to the console. "From where?" "Inside Terran space, sir. Approximately 15 light minutes past the boundary. It is a Concilium science vessel, the Wandering Star." They are calling for immediate assistance. The bridge fell silent. Every crew member turned to look at their commander. Vexthera felt his heart's beating faster. He pulled up the signal data on his personal screen. The message was clear and desperate. This is Captain Moltene of the Wandering Star. We have suffered catastrophic engine failure. Hull breaches on multiple decks. 27 crew members need immediate evacuation. Please, anyone who receives this, we need help now. Vexthera's first officer, a cautious female named Silvera, approached him quietly. Consul, we cannot enter that zone. The treaty forbids it. The warnings were clear. But those are our people, Vexthera said, still listening to the repeating distress call. 27 lives. We cannot simply ignore them. The Wandering Star entered Terran space illegally, Silvera reminded him. They knew the risks. They broke the treaty first, not us. Vexthera slammed his fist on the console. I do not care about their mistakes. I care about bringing them home alive. Prepare the fleet for rescue operations. The bridge crew hesitated. Vexthera could see the fear in their eyes. Stories about Terran space were common among spacers. Ships that entered and never returned. Strange signals that drove crews mad. Powerful weapons that appeared from nowhere. Sir, the communications officer interrupted. There is more. The Wandering Star reports they are under attack. Ktharn raiders have found them and are attempting to board their vessel. This changed everything. The Ktharn were the most brutal pirates in the sector. They showed no mercy to their victims. If they captured the science vessel, those 27 crew members would face torture and slavery before death. We have no choice now, Vexthera announced. Set course for the Wandering Star's coordinates. Maximum speed. Battle stations. Silvera stepped closer, lowering her voice. Consul, please reconsider. The elders said no exceptions. They said millions of lives could depend on staying out of Terran space. The elders are not here, Vexthera replied firmly. I am. And I will not abandon my people to pirates. If the humans appear, I will explain our humanitarian mission. Surely they will understand. The fleet crossed the boundary 5 minutes later. The moment they entered Terran space, something felt wrong. Vexthera could not explain it, but the very air seemed to change. The ship's sensors began showing strange readings, flickering between normal and unknown signatures. Communications are experiencing interference, the officer reported. All channels are filled with static. Then every screen on the bridge went dark. For 3 heartbeats, there was complete silence. When the screens came back online, there was a single message displayed in perfect Consilium script. The words appeared on every monitor, every console, every display throughout the entire fleet. You were warned. Turn back now. This is your only chance. Vexthera stared at the message. Whoever sent it had taken complete control of his ship's systems in an instant. They could see everything. They probably could do anything they wanted. But ahead of them, the Wandering Star was still broadcasting its desperate plea for help. Continue forward, Vexthera ordered, his voice steady despite the fear creeping up his spine. We did not come this far to turn back. The message on the screens changed to a single word that made his blood run cold. Foolish. The fleet pushed deeper into Terran space, every crew member tense and alert. Vexthera gripped the arms of his command chair as they approached the Wandering Star's last known position. What they found made no sense. The science vessel was there, still intact but damaged. But the Ktharn raider ships that had been attacking it were now fleeing at maximum speed, their engines burning so hot they left trails across the sensors. And between Vexthera's fleet and the Wandering Star floated a single human vessel. Scan that ship, Vexthera ordered. His tactical officer worked quickly, then looked up with confusion. Sir, the human vessel is small. Maybe 1/10 the size of our flagship. The design appears old, perhaps 50 years outdated by Consilium standards. But the Ktharn are running from it like it is a dreadnought. Vexthera watched the human ship carefully. It was dark gray, angular, and covered in what looked like battle scars. There were no obvious weapons visible, yet the most feared pirates in the sector were fleeing in terror. Open a communication channel, Vexthera said. A moment later, a human face appeared on the screen. She was female, with dark hair pulled back tightly and eyes that seemed to see right through him. Her uniform was simple and practical, with a patch that read TDF on the shoulder. I am Commander Sarah Chin of the Terran Defense Patrol, she said. Her voice was calm but carried an edge of authority. You have violated the exclusion treaty by entering Terran space. State your purpose. Vexthera stood to address her properly. Commander Chin, I am Consul Vexthera of the Galactic Consilium. We received a distress signal from one of our science vessels. We came to rescue our people from Ktharn raiders. I apologize for entering your territory, but this was an emergency. Chen's expression did not change. The Ktharn raiders are no longer a threat. They have been dealt with. I can see they are fleeing, but the Wandering Star still needs help. Please allow us to evacuate the crew and we will leave immediately. Something that might have been amusement flickered across Chen's face. Consul, you do not understand the situation. The Ktharn were not attacking your science vessel. They were responding to bait. We have been tracking these particular raiders for 3 weeks, waiting for the right moment to trap them. Vexthera felt cold realization wash over him. Bait? You mean? The distress signal was ours, Chen confirmed. We used recordings and signal mimicry to lure the raiders into our territory. They took the bait. So did you. Silvera stepped forward beside Vexthera. But our people on the Wandering Star, they need rescue. Chin touched a control on her arm. The crew of the Wandering Star has been safely aboard my vessel for the past 4 hours. They illegally entered Terran space 2 days ago to conduct unauthorized surveys. We detected them immediately, disabled their ship, and took them into protective custody. The main screen split, showing the interior of the human vessel. The crew of the Wandering Star was there, alive and unharmed, sitting in what looked like a comfortable waiting area. Captain Molteen waved weakly at the camera. Vexthera felt anger rising. You used them as bait? You put our people in danger to catch pirates? Your people put themselves in danger when they violated the treaty, Chin replied coldly. We protected them despite their stupidity. The Ktharn never got close enough to harm anyone. Now, Consul, you will turn your fleet around and return to Consilium space immediately. Not until you explain something, Vexthera demanded. I need to understand why Terran space is forbidden. Why does the entire Galactic Consilium fear contact with your species? What are you hiding? Chin was quiet for a long moment. She looked away from the screen, seeming to consider something. When she looked back, her expression had changed slightly. There was something sad in her eyes now. You really want to know? She asked. Yes. Very well, Consul. I will show you why we are quarantined. But I warn you, once you see the truth, you will wish you had obeyed the elders and stayed away. Follow my ship. Do not deviate from the course I give you. Commander Chen's ship led Vexthera's fleet deeper into Terran space for 6 hours. They traveled to a world called Sanctuary, orbiting a yellow star near the border. As they approached, Vexthera saw dozens of human vessels patrolling the system. Each one moved with precision and purpose that made his military training seem clumsy by comparison. They landed at a facility built into the side of a mountain. Chin met them at the entrance, her expression unreadable. She said nothing as she led Vexthera and Silvera through corridors of metal and stone. Finally, they entered a large chamber that took Vexthera's breath away. It was a museum. But not a celebration of victories. It was a memorial to the dead. The walls were covered with names. Millions of names in hundreds of languages. Human names, but also names from species Vexthera recognized. Zephyrian names. Crystalline designations. Even some ancient scripts he had only seen in historical archives. This is the memorial of first contact, Chin said quietly. Every name on these walls is someone who died during the war 200 years ago. Vexthera walked closer to the walls. War? The elders said there was contact, but they never called it a war. Because your elders were ashamed, Chin replied. When the Consilium discovered Earth, we were just beginning to explore our own solar system. We had primitive spacecraft and basic weapons. Several Consilium species saw an opportunity. She led them to a display showing images of Earth from orbit. 3 different factions came to our world. One wanted to study us like animals. Another wanted to use us as cheap labor. The third decided we would make good soldiers for their wars if properly controlled. Silvera touched one of the displays. But that violates every Consilium law about first contact with developing species. Your laws now, Chin said. Not your laws then. Back then the Consilium was younger, more aggressive. They thought we would be easy to manage because we were divided into different nations and cultures. They thought we would fight each other while they took what they wanted. She activated a holographic display. Images of burning cities appeared, of alien ships hovering over human settlements, of people running in terror. The Krillian Empire attacked first. They wanted Earth's resources and did not care about the native population. They killed 3 million humans in the first week. Vexthera felt sick. The Krillians were one of the founding species of the Consilium. They were known for their diplomatic skills now, but clearly they had been different once. What happened next? Vexthera asked, though part of him did not want to know. Chen's expression hardened. Humanity did what we do best. We united. Every nation on Earth put aside their differences and focused on a single goal: survival. We studied the Krillian technology from their crashed ships. Within 6 months we understood it. Within a year we improved it. Within 5 years, we had built weapons that made the Krillians regret ever finding us. The holographic display showed human ships, sleek and deadly, engaging Consilium vessels. The human ships moved in ways that seemed to defy physics, attacking from impossible angles, disappearing and reappearing in combat. We did not just fight back, Chin continued. We hunted them. We tracked Krillian ships back to their colonies. We showed them what happens when you threaten human families. The war lasted 30 years. By the end, the Krillian Empire had lost a third of its population. 2 other species that joined the invasion were completely destroyed. Vexthera stared at her. Destroyed? You committed genocide. We gave them chances to surrender, Chin said coldly. They refused. They kept coming. So we made sure they could never threaten anyone again. She walked to another display. When the war finally ended, the Consilium offered peace. But we had learned something terrible about ourselves. We discovered that humans are very, very good at war. Too good. We had become what we hated. The display showed a signing ceremony. Humans and Consilium representatives together. We proposed the treaty. We asked to be isolated, not as punishment but as protection. Protection for you, Consul. Because if we ever join the galaxy fully, if we ever decide to take what we want instead of asking, nothing will stop us. Vexthera stood in silence, staring at the memorial walls. The weight of what he had learned pressed down on him like a physical force. Chin waited patiently, letting him process the truth. Finally, he turned to face her. If your people are so powerful, why do you stay hidden? He asked. You could lead the Consilium. You could bring order to the galaxy. Chin smiled sadly. Because we tried that once on our own world. We had empires that conquered and ruled through fear. We had leaders who believed their power gave them the right to control others. It always ended in suffering. Always. We learned that lesson the hard way, and we will not repeat it on a galactic scale. She began walking toward the exit, and Vexthera followed. We are not saints, Consul. We are not peaceful by nature. Every human child grows up learning about our violent history. We know what we are capable of when we are angry or afraid. That is why we chose isolation. They emerged from the facility into the bright sunlight. Chen's ship waited nearby, along with Vexthera's shuttle. In the sky above, he could now see what he had missed before. Dozens of human vessels, perhaps hundreds, moving in perfect formation. They had been there all along, hidden by technology he could not even detect. The Ktharn raiders that escaped earlier, Vexthera said suddenly. They did not really escape, did they? No, Chin confirmed. We let them go. They will spread stories about what they saw, about how quickly we dealt with them. Fear is a useful tool when used correctly. It prevents conflicts before they start. Silvera spoke up for the first time in an hour. How many ships do you have? Enough, Chin replied simply. Enough to defend our borders. Enough to respond if the Consilium or any other power decides to break the treaty. Enough to protect innocent species if necessary, even outside our territory. Vexthera felt a chill at those words. You would intervene in Consilium space? We already do, Chin said. Pirates, slavers, war criminals. When they get too bold, when they threaten the helpless, sometimes they simply disappear. The Consilium assumes it is internal justice. We let them believe that. It is easier than explaining. She stopped at the shuttle and extended her hand in the human gesture of farewell. Vexthera gripped it carefully. Her hand was small compared to his, but her grip was strong. Go home, Consul, Chin said. Tell your council what you have seen. Tell them the warning stands stronger than ever. We will defend those who cannot defend themselves. We will stop threats before they grow too large. But we will never conquer. That is our promise to the galaxy, and our threat to those who would do harm. Vexthera climbed into his shuttle. As they lifted off, he watched the human facility grow smaller below. Chin stood there, watching them leave, a single figure who somehow seemed more powerful than his entire fleet. The journey back to Consilium space felt longer than the journey in. Vexthera sat quietly, reviewing everything he had learned. Silvera finally broke the silence. What will you tell the council? She asked. The truth, Vexthera replied. All of it. 2 weeks later, Vexthera stood before the Galactic Consilium Council once more. Elder Kthes and the others listened as he delivered his full report. He left nothing out. The rescue attempt, the trap, the museum, the memorial and Chen's final warnings. When he finished, the council chamber was silent for a long time. You understand now, Kthes said finally, why we maintain the treaty? I do, Vexthera confirmed. But I recommend we strengthen it. Add additional monitoring. Make the penalties for violation more severe. And Elder, I request that my report be added to the official records, unredacted. Kthes nodded slowly. Agreed. Future ambassadors should know what you know. They should understand the truth. Vexthera accessed the database and added his own entry to the warnings about Terran space. His words were simple and clear. Humanity chose peace. Pray they never choose war. That night, far away in Terran space, Commander Chen sat in her quarters reviewing the day's reports. A message appeared on her screen from Deep Space Monitoring. Vexthera's report had been filed and accepted by the Concilium. The treaty would be reinforced. She allowed herself a small smile. Another century of peace earned, she said to herself. Maybe one day we can truly join them. But not yet. Not until we are sure we have learned our lesson. She looked out at the stars beyond her window, at the vast galaxy that feared and respected her species in equal measure. Somewhere out there, other species lived and grew and dreamed, protected by a barrier they did not fully understand. A barrier maintained not by weapons or threats, but by humanity's greatest strength, the wisdom to know when not to use their power. The watch continued. It always would.